quickly enough, and some of the, I mean, they bring up cases of companies that have left, they blame you for not going over quickly enough, NCR, whatever.
Can I talk about NCR for a minute? NCR left Dayton over a period of 10 years. I mean, NCR had thousands of jobs in Dayton. You know, and by the time they left, they had, you know, I mean, they had some substantial jobs, but most of the jobs had already left over a period of at least 10 years. And if you talk to the local business leaders in Dayton, I think if you talk to the Dayton Daily News that knows this well, I think even if you talk to Senator John Houston, you would get a very, very different impression than you get from John Kasich. And he says I was at this luncheon in New York and I didn't know the CEO's name and all this kind of stuff. Well, let me explain something to you about that luncheon in New York. It was an energy gathering. I was asked to be on a panel, but also at that luncheon were companies from Spain. Now later today, by the way, and I hope that some of you can attend the press conference. Later today, I'm going to have a press conference making a major announcement. About a major wind farm that will be established in Ohio. It will be the largest wind farm east of the Rocky Mountains. And that announcement will be made, I think, at 3 o'clock.
Mm-hmm. Where?
It'll be in the cabinet room.
No, I mean, where's the wind farm?
Oh,
Solar.
I'm sorry, solar farm.
We're all going to be up here till 4:30.
Yeah,
So,
solar farm.
can you give us an idea of the region?
I can tell you. Generally,
It must not be the Northeast.
no.
We're not
We don't have any sun.
But wait. There are 2 Spanish companies that are signing memorandums of understanding to build solar component parts and the like. And we don't know where those can be located anywhere in Ohio. They just committed to us that they will do it in Ohio. So, but my point is, these Spanish firms were attending this New York conference, as well as the Crown Prince of Spain and his wife. And I went to this luncheon. The Crown Prince of Spain was my guest, he and his wife, at that luncheon. And it was, it wasn't 6 or 7 people. It was I don't know, maybe 25 people at that luncheon sitting around this big table. Vice President Al Gore was there, and so on and so forth. So I admittedly spent my time at that luncheon courting these 2 Spanish firms and the Crown Prince, because I wanted them to invest in Ohio, and it is happening. We are announcing it today. And there were a lot of people at that luncheon that I did not have a chance to talk to or interact with. So John Kasich goes around saying, went to a luncheon, didn't even know the guy's name, and so on and so forth. Well, I think that's a total mischaracterization of what happened. But I don't think I caused NCR to leave. As I said, they left over a period of many, many years. When I talked to the CEO, what he said to me was, Governor, most of our employees are already in Georgia. So they had gone to Georgia long before I became governor, most of them. John Kasich also accused me of being responsible for a company, about 120 or so workers, leaving North Baltimore and going to Indiana. And he said very publicly all over the state, the Ohio EPA was rigid and would not cooperate, and they forced this company to leave Ohio. When we sat together, John Kasich and I sat together in front of the Columbus Dispatch editorial board. He brought it up twice during that editorial. Finally, I'd had enough. I said, John, have you ever talked to the CEO? Well, he had not. I said, well, I have. I've talked with him. I mean, he said to me, Governor, it really bothers me when I read these stories about how Ohio's regulations affected our decision. He said, quite the contrary. your EPA has been wonderful for us to work with. He said, we have a second plant in Van Wert, Ohio, and your EPA has worked with us and saved us a lot of money at that plant. He said, no regulations, nothing having to do with your EPA had anything to do with our decision. And so, you know, you got to, as Paul Harvey would say, find out the rest of the story. He says some things that are simply not grounded in fact. You know, I mean, I've said to him, John, it's hard to debate someone who doesn't have a high regard for the truth. And it's true. He says things that are just simply inaccurate. And he says them, you know, with, I don't know, what appears to be, to me, I'm not saying John's necessarily being purposefully false. I think he is hugely undisciplined. I don't think he spends the time or the effort to really dig into an issue and understand it. And I think that's more of a problem than, you know, than dishonesty.
What about,
Getting back to the economy a little bit on the, you've given some things about some little light at the end of the economic tunnel. You talked about the unemployment figures and the growing economy. What part of your leadership are you most, this is kind of a softball question, what part of your leadership are you most happy with in that trend?
Well, I think the effort that I put forth to pass an energy bill that established a strong renewable portfolio standard that is in fact resulting in major investments being made and jobs being created. When I became governor, Ohio had, I think, 3 wind turbines in our entire state. We have now permitted about 500 wind turbines that will be installed in Ohio within the next year and a half. That's a major step forward in a relatively short period of time. That would not have happened without our energy bill and our renewable standard. And this is rural development. Farmers are going to have continuous income from you know, these turbines being installed on their property while they can continue to farm that land by and large. And so that's an example of the announcement we're making today will result in 600 jobs being created, over 700 jobs being created, over 400 of them will be permanent jobs. That would not have happened without the energy bill. I suggested in my State of the State address that we eliminate the tax on the generation of energy from wind and solar companies if they committed to beginning construction by 2012 and producing electricity or power by 2011 and producing by 2012. And that's made Ohio hugely competitive. We are almost certain to be the first state in North America to see the deployment of wind out on fresh water in Lake Erie. 5 turbines have already been ordered from GE, and they will demonstrate the feasibility of it, and then those will be followed by what we hope to be a major deployment of wind on Lake Erie. The solar industry in northeast or northwest Ohio is exploding. We have invested in Willard and Kelsey, which is a new solar company, First Solar. Fuel cell technology is growing rapidly in Ohio. We are the leading state in terms of fuel cell research. I mean, there are several things that I could point to, but the whole energy area is one that I think we have dealt with in a way that really positions Ohio to see jobs created going forward.
Governor, I have a question. You mentioned the creation of the University System of Ohio, and that was something that basically was your initiative, and you said, look, we're going to do this, and we did it. That's for higher education. Looking at the K through 12, we have over 600 school districts. You noted that we're building 250 green schools. When do you think anybody's going to take the initiative to say, we've got too many school districts, we can't support them anymore, and now is the time to do it? Do you think the governor's office is in a position to do that if you have a second term?
Well, it's something that certainly needs to be seriously looked at and taken into consideration. I believe the greatest pushback from doing that comes from local folks fearing that they will lose their community's identity and so on. I believe that